More of your questions now for former Congressman Beto O'Rourke. So let's bring in now, I want to bring in Peggy Shepard, Congressman, bring her into the conversation. She is a co-founder and executive director of We Act for Environmental Justice. It's based in New York, right in New York City. Getting lots of applause. It's a group that fights for equal environmental protections for people of color and low-income residents. Peggy, what's your question?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
An important environmental justice concern is extreme heat, which kills more residents each year than storm surge. So what would you do to address this issue through building codes or policies that really begin to address the escalating energy costs and the lack of air conditioning and the lack of the ability to pay for air conditioning by vulnerable populations? Over 31%, over 31 million households in this country are energy insecure.
Peggy, thanks for the work that you're doing. Thank you for asking the question. And thank you for pointing out a very real and present crisis that we have in this country right now and across much of the world. We talked about the ability to spend on helping those communities who are on the front lines of climate change right now through the revenues from a cap-and-trade system. So that means that those communities, very often lower income, and right now race and ethnicity is the best predictor to your proximity to a polluter, are first in line to get the help that they need, that they deserve, and that they've missed for generations. This is a personal issue for me. El Paso, Texas is the second fastest warming city in the United States of America today. We've had more than 14 days over 100 degrees over the month of August, which broke the record for as long as we've been setting records in our community. And I'll tell you something, Peggy and Don. My son Henry, who's 8 years old, when I was talking to him the other night, he asked me, "Dad, if you win and you become president, we get to live in El Paso, right?" And I said, "No, if we win the way this works, we would live in Washington, D.C. But he knew, because I had told him about the warming that we face, that our community will be uninhabitable, will not sustain human life along this current trajectory unless something dramatically and fundamentally changes. So the people of El Paso and the Desert Southwest and the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans and Charleston, South Carolina, and Miami, Florida, really the people of this country are counting on all of us right now to stand up and be counted and do the right thing. So we will make those investments, but the most important thing is to arrest the rate of climate change on this planet, to ensure that we do not warm 1.5 degrees Celsius over those pre-industrial revolution levels, and that is my #1 priority, and that's why climate was the first plan I released as a candidate for the presidency. Thanks for asking the question. Appreciate it.